All right, hi everyone. I made a little PowerPoint to analyze a course I took online using the KeyM rubric. So I'm going to talk about how the course met the rubric standards and then also how it didn't based on each of the 8 categories listed on the rubric. I also have the examples within the PowerPoint to show exactly the ways that it met the standards and the rubric. So the first category is course overview and introduction. So the way my course met rubric standards is by having instructions made clear on how to get started. Course objectives were stated, academic integrity disclosure was stated, and then technology access was listed. The ways it didn't meet the rubric standards was there were not prerequisites for the course listed, and that's important so the student knows what they need to know and what skills they should have before starting the course. It also didn't have the instructor introducing themselves on the announcement page or in our introductions where we had our presentations. So right here is course information. It says up at the top here, start here, course information. So there was a little tab of exactly how the course will be run, a few things that we needed to know, as well as the professor's email, the Millersville IT help desk, the professor's phone number, start dates, end dates, due dates, and then specifically the modules, when were the initial posts going to be due, how are we going to have to communicate with our peers, 2 replies as a minimum to peers. So this is how the course that I'm analyzing relates to the rubric and how the course meets the rubric standards here by having this starting information for students of how to get through the course. Here is the course objectives, which is also important at the start of the course. I'll talk about this more when we specifically get to that category, since it is a category of the rubric. And then here you have the academic honesty policy, any kind of course accommodations that you can receive. Up here are the electronic and technology assistance that you can have. It talks about needing email and access to the Desire to Learn as a learning management system, which we'll be using. Since it was an asynchronous class, we used a lot of discussion boards, so making sure that you could get on to Desire to Learn was very important for our course. It then also talked about having email with the professor, when you could email, and just saying and letting everyone know that as soon as she can get to her email, she will get back to you, which is very important. There's also an area in the discussion board which she says here that we could post help questions, and it was kind of nice to have our peers also relate to us and help us, because I know if I had a question I would check there to see first if someone else had asked the question, or if I had a question I would post it there, and then some of my peers responded, so that was really nice. The next category, as I had said, was learning objectives and how my course met the rubric standards. The learning objectives for the course were listed and measurable. The objectives matched the course description, and the course assignments with descriptions allow students to see how they will meet the objectives. I didn't really see any ways that it didn't meet the rubric standards. So here, this shows you on our syllabus that the required text is here, and that is also going to relate to our course objectives. And then we have the course objectives, and they're written from a student perspective. The first one, understand principles of cognitive and social and moral development from infancy to adulthood. Consider the level of scaffolding that is needed to adequately support student learning and success in online education. Also, another one was identify methods of interaction that will engage students with their peers and other community stakeholders. And also identify teaching and learning strategies that help teachers respond to individual students and their differences and needs across a variety of characteristics. And we did various discussion boards and assessments and assignments throughout the course that correlated specifically with all of these objectives. So as you can see here, here's a little breakdown of the weekly modules. Like I said, right here, special education and online learning. One of our objectives was to make sure that we knew how to work with students that had special needs and accommodations. So as you can see just from this breakdown, that the professor definitely matched her modules to the learning and course objectives. Again, here understanding the developmental theory and brain research. As we can see, if I go back here, the first objective was to understand principles of cognitive, social, and moral development. So you can really see how the objectives and the assignments correlated. Next is assessment and measurement. So the way it met the rubric standards was assessment expectations were clearly defined in the syllabus, feedback for discussion boards and written papers was given, the assessments met the objectives. One thing I thought didn't meet the rubric standards was that the assessments were all in written form, except for the first introduction where we did a little multimedia. Most people did a PowerPoint for that. So here you have the course assignments, your expectations of how you will be assessed, and then exactly how many points you get are laid out right here. It talks about when the modules are open, and then how you have to interact with your peers by replying, and then how many points you'll get for doing all of those things. And it kind of talks about that twice here with the discussion boards. Down here is the introductory multimedia presentation, and then we had a case study and a field experience. Both of these were in the written paper format. They did correlate, however, with the objectives. Another thing that I thought was really neat that we did that wasn't really an assessment, but it was a discussion board. So she was assessing the objective of how we communicate with community and parents. We had to create a way to let parents know about our online course. So I kind of did it as a PowerPoint and had an introductory of myself, introductory of their role. So I thought that was really neat because that communication with the community and parents is very important, especially since online education is new and not everybody's on board. So that was a really great assignment and assessment. And that one kind of varied from the written work that we had originally been doing. Here's the individual feedback that I was given from this course, and it's very specific to what I had said, and then the professor related to me as well, giving me some information about herself, and this continued throughout the course. Feedback is extremely important because it allows the student to know what they're doing well, what they might need to work on, and if they don't know what they're doing well in, it's really hard for them to continue to keep doing those good things, or if they don't know that they're doing it wrong, they might continue doing things incorrectly. So feedback is really important, and as you can see, our professor gave us feedback. The next category is instructional materials. So our course materials were appropriate for the reader, they allowed students to meet the objectives, they matched the weekly discussion of the assignment, and all materials were appropriately cited. I didn't really have anything that didn't meet these rubric standards. So here you can see is one of our modules. There were videos, links, PDFs, as well as our textbook. So all of these resources then match what our assignment was for the week. So as you can kind of just see with a glimpse here, the learning brain, learning as we grow, all of these are talking about whole brain learning. So it also talks about zones of proximal development and scaffolding. And within each of these articles, it talks about all of those aspects. So we could use that text to then respond to the discussion board. The next category is learner interaction and engagement. So activities met the course objectives, students' interactions occurred through discussion boards, and then the number of interactions expected was stated in the syllabus. Standards for instructor responsiveness were stated but not always followed through is something I found that didn't really meet the rubric. And of course I know we're all busy, but when there's times when students need help, I think we need to really make sure we're there for them and checking daily to make sure that students are on task, and if they need help, that we're there to help them and provide the support they need. So here it talks about the course activities and then the discussion boards. It says that you have to make sure you have 2 thoughtful replies and responses. So that's how we discuss and collaborated with our peers is through the discussion board postings. So if I keep going here, again, here's the discussion boards that we use for the modules. Okay, and then we have course technology. So the way this met rubric standards, the course used discussion boards for weekly assignments. Navigating through the course was easy and online resources were easily accessible. Some things that I found that didn't meet rubric standards based on my analysis is that the course did not have the students use varied media. Course materials were either our textbook, online articles, or videos. So as you can see here, very easy. Desire to Learn makes it nice and simple for us to work our way through because each module can be put in a folder and then all the information's in there. So I think that's really great, and it's a really organized learning management system. Next I have here is the PDFs and the links and the web pages. A lot of it was reading material. There were some videos, but a lot of it was reading material for each of the modules to read through and then to complete the assignments. So based on the rubric, it would be nice to have a few more varied types of information that we could look at. Learner support, the course syllabus lists accommodations available, and then the course had a help discussion board. Desire to Learn also has a link for resources for student success, and based on what the university provides and Desire to Learn has for students out there, I didn't see any reasons why it wouldn't meet rubric standards. So here I have is this discussion help board where you can post questions here. This is where I was talking about some of us communicated with each other, but then also the professor could answer. Another area was here, resources for student success, which I found. And then it talks about the academic integrity policy, the resources you could use if you need assistance with assignments, technical assistance. So all of those resources were available for students, and I could find that, so that was great. The next category is accessibility. The course syllabus listed accommodations available. I didn't need any accommodations for things to be accessible, so I cannot truly rate the course based on this standard. And then the text and the video resources that we had were organized and had minimal distractions. So based on that part of the rubric, I can say that I did see that everything was easy to read. It wasn't too chaotic on the page. There wasn't anything that I saw that didn't really meet rubric standards. So right here, Millersville has their learning services. So our mission, the Office of Learning Services, it talks about online workshops, accommodations you might need, eligibility guidelines. So this is great for students that might need help and need some accommodations and modifications. So definitely using this if you need more accessibility for any kind of online course. And this is available, and it was in the syllabus that this is where you should go if you need any accommodations. Okay, so methods and strategies from our textbook. So in Chapter 3, our textbook, it says that assignments should be varied, all the modules, and discussion boards except for 2 of our other written assignments. So I'm kind of comparing our course to the textbook as well, and this also relates to the rubric because it also talks about varying your assignments. So all of ours were a lot of discussion boards, and there weren't a lot of things like we're doing now where you have to do Camtasia or you have to do a camera confession. So students interacted only through discussion boards versus having working relationships, and this is a very big idea. I'm talking about collaboration, having working relationships. I feel like now having a group as a whole, we're working together to make these units and the inclement weather units, and I feel like I've received more strategies and ideas from my peers with that because we're working together to help each other and give each other ideas to build on something to make our units better. So the collaboration in the other course was more just responding to something someone said based on a discussion board. Interactions do not involve any kind of videotaping or Skyping. Choices for the assignments and assessments were not given. Typically, at this level, there's not many choices that are given, but according to our textbook and what I've known is it's typically used to maintain motivation and give students choices based on their interest. In chapter 4 of our textbook, it outlines assessment strategies. So, different types of assessment strategies that we could use is video viewing, jigsaw, individual and group projects. So, even though it's not really a group project, I feel like our inclement weather units are a project throughout the course, and we're kind of working as a group to help each other build that unit and make it successful. So, what did I learn from this analysis? What I've learned, and I know is important to put in an online classroom and as an online teacher, is it's important to list the objectives of the course and make sure that all of the materials and assessments meet the objectives. Also, that I should vary my assessments and assignments to engage students more. Not only assessments and assignments, but also their reading and how they're getting the information. Sometimes a song is fun or a video rather than just reading article after article after article. So, making sure that teaching styles are varied along with the other things that students are working on independently is important to keep them motivated and engaged. The teacher needs to be aware and vigilant of student concerns and need for help. This is something I struggled with when I was worried about getting my work done and it wasn't posted, or I couldn't find something and then the teacher wasn't getting back to me. So I definitely want to make sure that if a student needs help, that I am there for their concerns. I know I can't be there all the time, but just making sure that I'm constantly checking when I do have time to make sure that I can help them as quick as possible. And then finally, the students also need to know if they have the prerequisites to be successful in the course. If you don't know what skills you need before the course, you might get into the course and be like, oh, I don't know this. And then it's frustrating and a struggle for the student to make it through. Think about going into a calculus course, but you don't know how to add or multiply. The student's never going to make it through that course. So making sure that students know and have those prerequisite skills so that they can be successful in the course is very important. So that's something I'm going to make sure I do in my course as well.